Hi guys, maayong adlaw. Welcome to NatzMath TV. For today's video, my presentation is about solving quadratic equations by factoring. This is now the second part of the four-part video series about solving quadratic equations. So in my first video, I had presented to you about how to solve quadratic equation by using quadratic formula. So this time, we will solve quadratic equation by using factoring. So let's proceed directly to our example. We have example number 1. So x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0. By the way, when we solve for quadratic equation using factoring, we have to see to it that our quadratic equation is in general form, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Our right side of the equation should always be equated to 0. So to solve this quadratic equation, x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0, of course, by factoring, we have to have these two parentheses. A binomial. We have two binomials here. So we have this parenthesis, the first parenthesis for the first binomial, and the second parenthesis for the second binomial. So how do we factor out this trinomial, x squared minus 7x plus 10? So we need to go first to our first term, which is x squared. So when we factor out x squared, that would give us x times x. So we need to place our first x here and our second x. So when we multiply x times x, because parenthesis indicates multiplication, so x times x, that is x squared. Now next is to go directly to our last term. Our last term is positive 10. Now in this case, we need to find the factors of 10, which is positive 10, that when added will give us negative 7. So what are the factors of 10? So we have positive 5 and positive 2. 5 times 2 is 10, which is positive 10. But when we add 5 plus 2, that is positive 7, and we are looking for negative 7. So we have another factor of positive 10, which is negative 5 and negative 2, which is also a positive 10. And when we add negative 5 plus negative 2, that would give us negative 7, which is our middle term. So the factors that we need to use is the second one. This is negative 5 times negative 2. So we can write here our negative 5 and we have here negative 2. Or we can have x minus 2 times x minus 5. So these are now the factors of this trinomial, x minus 5 times x minus 2, then equals 0. The next step is to equate each factor to 0. So we have the first factor, which is x minus 5. We equate that to 0. So we have x minus 5 equals 0. Then this time we can now solve for our x. But since this is minus, we need to use addition property of equality. So we have to add 5 here. So this will be cancelled out. We will also add 5 at the right side of the equation. So what remains at the left side is the x, and 0 plus 5 is 5. So our first value for x in this quadratic equation is x equals 5. Then we also equate the second factor, x minus 2, to 0. So we have x minus 2 equals 0. The same process, since this is minus, so we add 2 at the left side, and we also add 2 at the right side. So what remains at the left side would be x, and 0 plus 2 is 2. So the second value is x equals 2. So the values of x, or that is what we call the roots of quadratic equation x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0 are x equals 5 and x equals 2. Now to check if these answers are correct or if these values are correct, again, we go back to our original equation, x squared minus 7x plus 10 equals 0, and our values, x equals 5 and x equals 2. We check for the first value. We have x equals 5, so this is our equation. Instead of writing x here, we change that with a value of x, which is 5. So we have x squared, so that becomes 5 squared. Then we copy minus 7. Then we multiply 5 because x is 5. Then plus 10 equals 0. Then we simplify. 5 squared is 25. This one here, 5 squared is 25. Then negative 7 times 5 is negative 35 plus 10 equals 0. Then 25 minus 35 is negative 10 plus 10 Negative 10 plus 10 is 0, which is equal to 0. So the first value is correct because that gives us a balanced equation for this quadratic equation given. Now let's proceed to the second value, which is x equals 2. The same process, we change the value of x here with 2. That's why we have 2 squared minus, we copy 7 times the x is 2 plus 10 equals 0. 2 squared is 4, then negative 7 times 2 is negative 14 plus 10. So 4 minus 14 is negative 10 plus 10 is 0, which is equal to 0. So therefore, the values of x equals 5 and x equals 2 are correct because both values give us a balanced equation for the given quadratic equation. Okay, let's proceed to the next example. Example 2. For example, we are given x squared plus 5x minus 50 equals 0. So the same process, we have here two parentheses for the first binomial and the second binomial, then equate to 0. Now, we have x squared. So we factor out x squared, that gives us x times x. So we have one x here and another x and in the second parenthesis. Then we go directly to the last term. Our last term is negative 50. So we look for a factor of 50 that when added will give us a positive 5. Again, we look for a factor of negative 50 that when added will give us positive 5, which is our middle term. So if we are going to list down the factors of negative 50, we can have negative 25 times 2 equals negative 50, which is correct. But when we add, negative 25 plus 2 is negative 23, which is wrong because we are looking for positive 5. So let's proceed to another factor. When we add these two numbers, this will give us positive 23. Another factors of negative 50 is negative 10 times positive 5, which is negative 50. But when we add negative 10 plus 5 will give us negative 5, which is wrong because we are looking for positive 5. So another factor is positive 10 times negative 5 is equal to negative 50. And when we add 10 plus negative 5 will give us positive 5, which is our middle term. Therefore, we will be using these factors. So we can have plus 10 for this factor. Another one is x minus 5, which is this factor. So the factors of this trinomial x squared plus 5x minus 50 are x plus 10 times x minus 5, then equate to 0. Then, this time, we equate x plus 10 equals 0, the first factor, then solve for x. The same, this is positive. So since this is positive, we use subtraction property of equality. We subtract 10 at the left side. We will also subtract 10 at the right side. So what remains at the left side, because this will be cancelled out, so what remains will be the x, then equals negative 10. This is 0 minus 10, so negative 10. So the first value of our x for this quadratic equation is negative 10. Now let's proceed to the second factor, which is x minus 5 equals 0. Now this time, since this is minus, so we use addition property of equality. So we will add 5 and we will also add 5 at the right side. So what remains at the left side is x equals, we have here 5. So the roots of our quadratic equation x squared plus 5x minus 50 equals 0 are negative 10 and positive 5. Now let's proceed to our checking. Again, we go back to our original equation x squared plus 5x minus 50 equals 0, and the values are x equals negative 10 and x equals positive 5. Then we check for negative 10. We have x squared here, so instead of writing x, we change that with negative 10. Then we have 5x, so instead of writing x here, we change this with negative 10. So we have the square of negative 10 is positive 100. That means negative 10 times negative 10 is positive 100. Then positive 5 times negative 10 is negative 50 minus 50 equals 0. So we copy 100, this one. Then 100 minus 100 is equal to 0, which is equal to 0 equals 0. Then the next value is x equals 5. So we can have 5 squared plus 5 times our x is 5 minus 50. This time, 5 squared is 25. Then 5 times 5 is 25 minus 50 equals 0. Then 25 plus 25 is 50 minus 50 is 0 equals 0. Now let's proceed to our next example. We have example number 3. You are given 4x squared minus 24x equals 0. This time, we only have a binomial at the left side of the equation and 0 at the right side of the equation. Meaning, we lack C, it is quadratic equation. So what are we going to do here is just simply factor out the common monomial factor in both terms. So we have here 4x squared minus 24x. We factor out the common factor, so we have 4 and 24. Our common factor is 4. Then we also have x squared and x. Our common factor is x. So what we need to do is we factor out the common factor in the first term and the second term. So we factor out 4x, so that would give us 4x times x minus 6 equals 0. So how do we get x minus 6? Since we factor out 4x already, so what remains on this term is x. Because when we multiply 4x times x, that would give us 4x squared. Then we copy the minus. Then, what remains with 24x, since we already have factored out 4x, so what remains for 24x is negative 6. Because when we multiply 4x times negative 6 will give us negative 24x. So the factors of this binomial would be 4x times x minus 6. Then, the same process, we equate each factor to 0. So our first factor is 4x. We equate that to 0 and solve for x. Now, to solve for x, we need to eliminate the 4 here as the coefficient of x. So, to eliminate the 4, we need to divide both sides of the equation by 4. Then we cancel out the 4. So, what remains at the left side is x. Then 0 divided by 4 is 0. So, therefore, the first value is x equals 0. Then next is the second factor, which is x minus 6. We equate that to 0, so we have x minus 6 equals 0. Then since this is minus, we use addition property of equality, so our x is equal to 6. So the roots of this quadratic equation are 0 and 6. To check if these values are correct, let's go back to our original equation, which is 4x squared minus 24x equals 0. The values are 0 and 6. We substitute this value for x 0 to the original equation, so we will have 4 times your x is 0, then we have the square, we copy minus, we copy 24, then our x is 0. Then 0 squared is of course 0, and multiplied to 4 is 0, so everything here is 0. Then minus 24 times 0 is 0, so everything at the left side is 0, equals 0. So therefore, this is correct. Now let's proceed to the next value, which is x equals 6. Substitute this one to our quadratic equation. We have 4 times our x is 6 raised to 2, copy minus 24, then our x is 6 equals 0. 6 squared is 36. We copy 4. 6 squared is 36. Then 24, negative 24 times 6 is negative 144 equals 0. Then 4 times 36 is 144 minus 144, that is 0 equals 0. Therefore, 0 and 6 are correct. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share to your friends. So thank you and God bless.